In this episode of Just Scylla, I open up about a moment in my life that was so painful. At the time, I thought it was the end of the world. I had gone through so much. I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old when I made the very, very hard decision to get divorced. But I made it to the other side, and because of that moment, I am who I am today. Hello, thanks for joining me for Just Scylla, a podcast where I, Scylla, get to talk to you about many different things, get to experience the things that we go through as women, having conversations with incredible women in our lives, in our perfectly imperfect lives. And today I have, oh my God, this woman inspires me. She gets me to say things about myself that I didn't want on camera. It's such a pleasure to be joined by journalist Diane Klein.
Hey, Scylla, it's so good to be here on Just Scylla. I love this. And I know one of the things we've talked a lot about in our many conversations is relationships.
Yes.
They are so fulfilling and so challenging at the same time. And I have been divorced twice, so I know what that's like, and I'm in a very happy marriage now. So I know that I always say there's hope at the end of the rainbow. Tell me about your decision when you decided to get divorced.
So I got married very young. I was 19. And it was basically two people away from home, two young, passionate people away from home who found each other and just wanted everything from each other. My ex-husband was my everything. He was 19 as well at the time. So just imagine being away from home and making these hard decisions. So we eloped. And it was the best time I'd ever had for a day.
Wait. I gotta go. Okay, so where did you actually elope to?
We eloped in Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah.
His family is from St. Louis,
Okay.
and my family is in Africa.
Yeah. So did you go to the Justice of the Peace or the courthouse?
We went to the Justice of the Peace. I wore an orange dress. I didn't even have money to get a white dress, so I wore an orange dress. I was nervous. I was really nervous, but I loved this man.
Yeah.
And being a foreigner, people always wonder why you got married. I really loved him. And now I love him in a different way, but that's a whole other journey that we get to talk about.
So you're 19. Did you think you were young at the time, or you knew everything?
I knew everything.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I knew everything.
Have you noticed how much less we know the older we get?
I know, and now I have a 19-year-old who knows everything. So I'm getting the payback here.
If she eloped when she was 19, what would you say?
I can't even imagine her eloping.
Yeah.
She wanted to move out, so she moved out, and it was the hardest thing for me, and I almost crashed. But you know what? Somebody put it into perspective for me and said, you left Africa when you were 18 and a half. You were here when you were 19. She's 19. She's just going 20 minutes away from home.
Yeah.
So it was really hard because I didn't think I did the right things as a parent, as you feel when your kid is going through their growth. But we are so close now.
But you know what? Because this is one of the things that's so interesting, because while your kids are going through all this, you're growing in your own stage of life.
I'm evolving.
And you forget that. It's like you think, okay, I'm done, or my kid is changing. We're all changing all the time.
We are all changing all the time.
So when you got married,
yes.
And did you live in Columbia, Missouri at that point?
We lived in Columbia, Missouri together.
Yeah.
So we moved in together the day that we got married, which is strange. I eloped, but I didn't want to live with this man until we're married. So I have all these little quirky things that are weird, but they're so important to me. We started living together, and within 2 weeks, we were arguing like crazy.
Gee, that's so surprising, 2 19-year-olds eloping and they would start arguing.
I mean, think about it. We hadn't known each other that long. Yeah. So we had just gone through the 6 months romantic period. Yeah. And then things started to get real.
Yeah, just about the time most couples are beginning to think, we got to work some stuff out. You were already married.
I was already married.
Yeah.
And, the fact of the matter is I loved him. And there were so many great things about him. But I had so many red flags as far as what I needed to be who I was meant to be. But I was so young, I didn't even know what I needed.
Did you even know what the red flags were, though?
Well, I mean, to me, it felt like passion. Like the arguing felt like, oh my God, we're so passionate. And we were, but it's just incredible the things you put up with as a young person because you haven't gone through your self-discovery.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a point where I've figured some of that stuff out.
So what kinds of things did you argue about?
It was making the bed. It was really simple things, and would have intense conversations about that. And then I was jealous, so I had this thing of every time he looked at it, I don't think I've changed with that. I'm working on it.
So you're a jealous person.
I am. I don't know that I'm a jealous person.
Yeah.
Here's what I know. I have seen things in my childhood that have made me be very careful and looking out for stuff all the time. So I have my own internal work to do.
Are you like hyper vigilant then?
I'm not. I used to be. I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
Now I think I've gotten to a point where it is what it is. If we're meant to be together, it will be what it is meant to be. So there's some growth has happened there. But it's a process, and all these have reasons, and we're going to go through them through the podcast that we have as everybody gets to know me better.
So let me ask you this. So how long were you married?
I was married for 12 years total.
So that's a long time.
Yes, 10 together.
Yeah.
And the last 2 were fighting over crazy, unimportant things that I laugh about that cost us a lot of money with attorneys.
Well, have you ever heard the phrase, if you're fighting all the time, you're not fighting about anything?
And now I know.
If you're fighting about everything, you're not fighting about anything.
Very true. But there came a time in the process of my divorce when I made a conscious decision to not fight anymore.
Tell me about that. How did you get there? What was the point at which you said, I'm not doing it? And then how did you actually not fight?
I was tired. I was exhausted. I was done with fighting. And I think the important thing was that when I made the hard decision to leave my husband, I had 2 children, I wanted to get my control back. There's a lot of stuff surrounding that. So I felt like now I've left, I'm starting over in my life. Literally, I left everything. I left him the house. He had, the better car, all of that, moved into an apartment. He's still having control over me. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I could control was not arguing with him, because now we all had lawyers.
My God, I love this.
We didn't need to talk.
I love this.
And I stopped talking to him about anything. I just felt like I came all this way. I left my grandmother, those amazing moments, my mother, my siblings. Is this what I came for? I just had that moment of I can't do it anymore. I couldn't stay in that marriage the way it was. And I've had a lot of awakenings since. Now I know we were together to produce these amazingly, just loving children.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. How did you get to the point, though, where you said, I am not going to fight anymore, and then you didn't? And the reason I keep going back to that is I think many of our listeners fight too much in their relationships and would love to say, how do I stop? What made you have that control in yourself to say, I'm not doing this anymore?
I didn't like how it made me feel.
Okay.
Like after arguing, I spent so much time obsessing about the argument. It was standing in the way of everything. It was standing in the way of my job, and so which means that if we are fighting, he's not picking up the kids and I need to go to work, which is why I became an entrepreneur. That was my number one reason. And we'll talk about that later. But I felt like my life was out of control. I was heading into my 30s. Nothing seemed to have changed. I just seriously thought that I was done. I wanted peace. I wanted to have peace of mind.
So if he started a fight, how would you not engage?
I just wouldn't text back.
I love it.
I wouldn't answer the phone. And that was the beginning of text messaging. I wouldn't, if it was something that we had already talked about with the attorney, it's kind of like when you go to see a therapist. What happens there stays there till next time.
Right.
We wouldn't talk about it with us. We'd go through things with our attorney. So I just say, talk to my attorney, talk to my attorney, talk to my attorney. After about 6 months of that, he gave up.
See, and that's the whole point. When people are pushing your buttons, they'll keep ratcheting up and up and up and up until they realize, okay, this is not going to work anymore. This is not fun anymore. But it takes so much internal strength not to take the bait.
And I know myself.
Yeah.
It happens even in business. I reach a breaking point. I'll take it. And then I just make a hard decision, and that's it. There's no going back.
Do you ever regret any decisions?
No, because I
Wow.
made it.
Wow. Okay.
I have to stand by it. Now, there are times when I'll miss some people that I'm done with
Yeah.
because it wasn't helping the energy in that particular environment. But what happens is you realize that everything and everybody you let go was taking you in a direction where you were meant to meet the people you're supposed to be with in this new season of your life. Because not everybody's supposed to go with you. It doesn't matter how hard they worked on it at the beginning, even in my businesses. The fact of the matter is the starting team is never the ending team.
I love that. I love that. I love this phrase too when you talk about having to leave people in your life. Sometimes losses are not losses. Isn't that good? I love that phrase.
They are not.
Yeah.
But it feels like that in the moment.
Yeah.
But now when I look at my ex-husband, who I treat like a brother, I can do anything for him. That's how much I've grown.
Yeah.
We can talk. It's the same thing. You realize after a long time that it was destined to be. All that fighting to hold on to all this stuff, you were standing in the way of your own destiny opening up. And that means letting some things go. Letting things go, letting people go, letting situations go, letting your own feelings go. It's a process, and it's only years later that you realized everything unfolded as it was meant to be.
So through this all, you've decided to become not Scylla Hall, but just Scylla. Tell me what that's about.
So my maiden name is Scylla Sibajene. Can you imagine trying to tell people how to pronounce that? It's hard enough.
At a
with my
cocktail
first name.
party?
Yes.
Hi.
My
Scylla
ex-husband's name is Hall. So his last name is Hall, which is my children's name. So I kept it after my divorce for simplicity's reasons. You know, when you travel and you have different names and you are a foreigner, it gets complicated, especially when you're transiting through European countries. It was easier for so long because I needed my children to be my children. I mean, you don't know what happens in this world. You can lose your children for really funny stuff because you can't prove that they are yours. I wanted to have simplicity. I wanted my children to feel like we are all a part of each other's lives. Mm-hmm. So I kept my husband's last name, my ex-husband. And now I'm in a new season. It's about me. It's about my growth and development, my self-discovery. And that means letting go of my ex-husband's last name, at least for the purposes of my future and career.
And that's why the podcast is Just
Scylla.
And we can't wait to hear more later on.
I can't wait to share my life with all of you.